Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is a gorgeous day here in Georgia. For those who join us, we do a little bit of everything on this channel: DIY, automotive, pinball, machining, you name it. And oh, something else that I'm just kidding. I can't show you guys that yet because, well, we haven't introduced it to the channel. That's going to be the next video. But today, ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about, should you be your own GC when it comes to building? So let's get to it. So the $1 million question is, should you be your own GC when you're wanting to build your property? Now we're going to talk about my experience being my own GC, as well as my experience building our own house with a actual general contractor. I'm going to tell you, they both have their pluses and minuses. So let's talk about the first and easiest one. That is hiring a GC. Now, when we built our house in Augusta, we hired a GC slash, it wasn't a big box builder, but they were a bigger builder for the area. We basically hired them to build us a house. Now, I will tell you, that was a very simple, easy process. For us, and the way that worked is we found a lot in a subdivision we liked that they built in. We found a house plan they liked, and we said, hey, we want to build this house on this lot, and here is the amount that we'll give you for it. Now, you're going to get a spec built house for that. Now, you can upgrade all that throughout the building process. So you still can customize it to your liking. Sometimes there's going to be, depending on the builder, there may be just a limit of what you're able to do. Other ones will allow you to build whatever you want. So let's talk about the financial aspects of building with a big builder like that. In this case, we had put in basically an offer on the house, where we wanted it and all that, and they accepted, and we basically just give them earnest money. That's all we give, was earnest money. Now, we were given a list of kind of what came standard with the house. As far as we had, like, I think it was 30 different carpets to choose from. There was like a whole list of things you could choose from. Once we did that, we got to sit down in front with the builder and say, and kind of go over the plans. Do we want to change anything? Do we want to change outlet locations? Do we want to change receptacles? What do we want to add on top of what was standard with the thing? We did that. Now, those created change orders, and change orders you had to pay for up front. I think every one of them we did was like upfront 100%. So if you wanted to change in the middle of the process, you wanted to change more outlet locations, you know, it was, I forgot how much it was. Then you also, like, if you want to add more concrete for a parking pad, you paid X amount more. So you end up paying all up front on anything that you do on your change order, but it is a very, very simple process. It really keeps you in line. Then you actually go into the design place and actually pick out a lot of your colors, your exterior finishings. I know when we went there, we got to pick brick colors, we got to pick the type of stone, the color of stone, the mortar choices. We had all that there. And then we ended up going to a flooring store, and they give us a range of what was standard, and then we had options to choose what we wanted to add on as far as, do we want to upgrade. And it was a very, very, very simple process, and they really kept you in line because you had your range of what you'd already agreed to. You knew what your budget was, and anything you went over, you had to pay for out of pocket right then. So it really kind of kept you in line, kept you in check. Very simple, very easy. That took 4 months to build that house. Super fast, super quick, really was a very easy process. Now, fast forward, when we moved back to the Atlanta area, we decided to build a custom home, and I decided to do my own GC work. That was a huge wake-up call. Now, it's not difficult by any means, but it is time-consuming, and it can be headaches. It's not really necessarily difficult, more so than there's a lot of headaches involved. The first thing you're going to deal with is you've got to deal with a construction loan if you go that route. Now, it's not a very difficult thing to get. At least it wasn't for me. Construction loan wise, we literally we give them a set of plans to the bank. Of course, all your financial documents said, this is what we're looking to build. This is how we're planning on finishing out. They would send that to an appraiser. And at that point, they would give an appraisal of what the property would be, valued at as if it was built that way. And then that is how they loan you the money based on that. Now, what that gives you is basically a bank account that has however much you qualified for or you're asking for. If it's $300,000, $350,000, $400,000, whatever it may be, is sitting in an account, but not really sitting in an account. It's there for you to pull from, but they don't charge you interest until you actually pull money out of that account. And they only charge you for what you actually pull out, not for what is in there. You are going to be solely responsible for all that. Not to mention, the hardest thing you're going to have when you're being your own GC is finding subs, and good subs, because most of the time, all of these subs that you're going to find are going to be busy. I mean, good subs are going to be busy. They have builders that they're currently working for that are keeping them busy throughout the year. And you are a single person doing a single build, and that to them really isn't really very incentivizing to come to you unless they do charge you more. Now, that is sometimes what will happen, and that's where sometimes you got to really outweigh it and really do your cost analysis. Even talking with a general contractor is kind of get a good rough idea of what they feel like they can build it for. You can kind of give them all the finishing stuff, and then you yourself need to go and try to find subs and get a rough estimate at that point, because I can tell you, you may end up not coming out ahead building yourself, but then again, you could. Just it really all depends on how good you are at actually finding subs, making sure you keep them on track, making sure they don't dig into your pocket too quick, because they are going to want draws as quick as they can. They're going to want to get paid as fast as they can up front and all that, and you got to make sure you're able to negotiate and properly handle that and deal with that. I will tell you, my first go around when it came to that, I had an issue with a guy that I really thought I had trusted, and he had done a lot of work, and he ended up getting me for a few $1,000s. And hate to say it, but it's the honest truth, and it was a mistake I learned from and will not do ever again. But when I've worked with somebody for that many months, had, you know, felt like a good fellow, had a good relationship, came down to the last little bit, and he only had a few more days of work, and I let him slide on that last bit, and it cost me. So yeah, learn from my lessons. Don't trust anybody. I hate to say that, but don't trust them. I mean, you got to make sure the work is done first before they get paid. Now, when it comes to framing, you're typically going to get, or some of these other bigger jobs, they're going to ask for draws throughout the process. And the best way to do it is to sit down and say, all right, well, what are you planning on charging me square foot? How long is it going to take you to build this? And you need to sit down and y'all need to come to an agreement that this is going to be your pay schedule. First week, I'm going to pay you X amount if this is completed. If all the wall framing is done, if all the floor joists are put in the next week, and all the flooring, you need to come up with a schedule with that, because if not, it can get away from you, and it can get, you know, away from them, and they, you know, you got to be really careful. That's all I'm getting at. So that is the other beauty about using an actual GC, is you don't have to fight with that as much. You don't have to keep up with that. So you do, you know, as your own general contractor, you're going to be responsible for that. So you really need to make sure you keep your timelines together. A lot of times too, when it comes to the financial side of things, the bank is going to only give you so many draws. Now, I'll see if I could find the actual paper that the bank had when we built years ago that shows the actual breakdown, but you're not going to be pulling every week from that account. They don't want that. You know, they want to see big draws. So, you know, when framing's done, they'll pull a draw, or when, you know, the exterior is completed, you can pull a draw, but they don't want to see you pulling, you know, $500 here, $500 there. No, they want to see you pulling the bigger chunks out when stuff is completed. So that's something else to keep in mind. And you're paying interest on that money that you pull out. So if it takes you a year to build, or 2 years to build, or 3 years to build, you got to remember you're paying interest. And that's another thing, is how long is your construction loan good for? Now, when I built my house initially, I think it was 1 year is what they typically give you to build a home on a construction loan. Now, I think you can push that a little bit further and get an extension, but you'd have to check with your bank and make sure. Then that leads me to the whole thing of everybody wants to save money. And if you are your own GC, you could save money, and you could save a good bit, depending. And there's just a lot of factors. It goes back to the subs you can find in your area. You know, how willing, you know, how good are they? Are they going to create you more problems down the road that you're going to have to pay and fix on? Are they going to, you know, ditch out on the job halfway through and you got to find somebody else to come in, or you're going to have to fire them halfway through and find somebody else? So you need to have some sort of building knowledge and understanding the codes for your area, because you are going to be responsible for your inspections, calling for your inspections, being there with your inspector, going over what was right, what was wrong. So you really want to have some basic knowledge, at least, and understanding of the building process and what is need to be done. You've got a lot there that you got to think on. That's where a GC, when you hire a GC, is actually going to help you and could possibly save you some there, because they have their subs. They know who they're working with. They know their budgets. They know their time frames. They got to get stuff done. So that is what, you know, really helps when you're, especially if it's your first time build. I would not recommend building. I say that. I would not recommend being your own GC on your first house. Now, at the end of the day, if you want to be your own GC, there are a few things you really have to be good at. And one is definitely budgeting. You really need to be able to create a budget and be able to stick to it. That is going to be key because it can run away from you really, really quick if you're not careful. Secondly, you need to have an understanding, at least some good basic knowledge of building process and how to build something or how to build a house. Let's be honest. You need to have some basic knowledge of that. You need to be able to schedule and communicate well with subs and finding subs. You need to be able to research. That's a huge thing. Being able to find the right people to come to your job. You need to be able to do that. And honestly, you just need to have the time to be able to devote to being able to come out when they're on the job site, making sure they're doing things properly, making sure that they're framing properly, making sure the flooring's going down properly, because you know, you can cover some stuff up real quick if you ain't careful, and you can have a crap show at the end of it. And that is another huge, everything starts from the bottom. Starts from the bottom and works its way up. And if you don't have a good foundation, you are going to be in for a rude awakening in the long run, and you can have tons of issues and problems. So just remember, you got to do all that and be able to keep all that in mind, and you'll be fine. You know, it's scary, sure. You know, it's a little bit of a daunting task, but at the same time, you know, it's rewarding. You can save money. I mean, when we built my house, I'll tell you, this was back in 2019. We started and finished in 2020. It took us just right at a year to build, and back then we built the house 2,800 and some change square foot with a potential potentially just bumping it out to 3,400, really, with some sheetrock and flooring, a little bit more electrical, but I already have plumbing, or already have AC running into there. We built that house, not including the land, for $250,000, and we have all LVP throughout, like really nice LVP, and then we have granite countertops everywhere. We have custom cabinets. We have, you know, tile in the showers, and the bathrooms are all tile. So we felt like, you know, we had a lot of people building around us at the same time, and I can tell you that what they spent, or roughly what they spent, you know, we saved a good bit on that. But at the end, yeah, you can save some money. You can have a great time doing it. It can be a learning experience process. Just make sure those key things, and you'll be fine. But we're going to wrap this one up here. We'll catch you next time. Damn gnats. For us, damn gnats. Smacking the crap. Jeez Louise.